Welcome to How to Write Memorable and Impactful Article Conclusions, presented by Dr. Sasere of Researchwithme Consulting. In this video, we'll help you master crafting conclusions that leave a genuine impact on your readers. First, we clarify the real purpose of a conclusion. Far more than a summary, a convincing conclusion reinforces your main argument, synthesizes key findings, addresses the so what, provides closure, and hints at future research or practice. Across all academic disciplines, strong conclusions include a clear restatement of your research problem or thesis, a brief summary of central arguments, and a focused discussion of implications. We'll highlight why acknowledging limitations and suggesting future directions further strengthen your work's credibility. We then move to practical writing tips, review your introduction, focus on significant findings, and plan before writing. When drafting, start decisively, use clear transitions, keep your tone appropriate, and maintain conciseness. After writing, ensure coherence, check that you've answered the so what and now what, and seek feedback. Understanding structure and length is key. We'll outline standard conclusion lengths for journal articles versus dissertations and show structure variations, short, medium, and extended, fitting your research's scope. To help your conclusions truly stand out, we'll share proven strategies. The full circle technique revisits your introduction with fresh insight. The zoom-out approach extends from findings to broad implications. Call to action energizes applied research, and approaches like provocative question and forward vision leave readers inspired. Recognizing disciplinary differences in conclusion writing is essential. We'll provide you with tailored advice and real examples for education, social and health sciences, STEM, business, humanities, and interdisciplinary research, ensuring your conclusion matches your field expectations and enhances your scholarly voice. Lastly, use our discipline-specific checklist as you write, and deepen your understanding of theory and conceptual frameworks, their definitions, structures, and uses in building and applying knowledge. Learn distinctions between theory and data, the value of frameworks, and how theories support explanation, prediction, direction, and progress across discipline.
In all ramifications, as in every of its form, whether to write is the problem, how to write is the problem, finance, how to identify credible journals, or how to meet the standard. Those are the things we stand for. And from the beginning of this call, we have been alluding to this, that finance should not be a barrier to publishing if we have the right information regarding the quota where we can publish. Not knowing how to write an article should not be a barrier also, and that is the gap this training intends to fill. And also, the challenge of not knowing where to publish, or in terms of, some people know, they've come across a number of journals. Even in the course of this training, a couple of people have reached out to us to verify if the journal they want to publish in are credible. We are so glad that people are coming to that realization, because what I am, at some point, till recently, I still realize that people team up to pay $100. 2-3 people who want to author an article or publish an article, and to pay $100, which would be about 115,000 or 145,000 in some places, and even in other countries. So $200, $300 could be a lot of money. But the moment people are able to gather such money and pay, they get the article published. Unfortunately, some of the journals that charge this way less or cheap, some of them are predatory journals. And meanwhile, the irony of it is there are credible journals that do not charge a dime. So these are the challenges we we are we are familiar with, and our assumption at this end is that by now some of these challenges would have been surmounted by a good number of us. And also another challenge is how to structure article. What are those information that are required at different points, in an article, different section in an article. We have been able to speak to virtually all aspects of an article and what are the information that are necessary. We also want to reiterate that this information are not only meant for articles for the purpose of those who are writing thesis. They are all applicable to how a thesis should be written. They are all applicable to how systematic literature review should be written. They are all applicable to how a conceptual paper should be written. So please, we appeal to you to take advantage of this and make them reflect in your work. This evening, we are going to be looking at almost the last aspect of an article when we look at it, from section point of view, and that is the conclusion section of an article. We started from identifying gap through the title, through the abstract, the keyword, the synthesis of how to synthesize, introduction, then the various part of introduction, we highlighted them and discussed them. We also talked about how to synthesize literature. We've also covered methodology. We covered result and findings. We've also looked at result and findings, and we talked about conclusion on Monday. Discussion on Monday. Today we are going to be looking at the conclusion aspects of an article. The conclusion section of an article. What are the information that are required? How should it be structured? Remember, it is in the conclusion section of an article that you leave a remarkable remark, that you make, even after you have articulated your points in the discussion session. Then at the conclusion session, what you are expected to do in that place is to leave an impression. And the impression you are to leave is to bring to mind what you have done, the importance of it, what has been done, the limitation of it, and of course, the way forward from where you stopped. Then somebody will ask me, but we talk about importance in discussion session, and we also talk about the importance and contribution. Now, what I want us to understand at this point is the type of writing you are doing per time will determine the flow, whether your contribution to your discussion will comprise of the limitation to the study, the contribution, the recommendation, and even the conclusion. There are journals that would, dictate. Their templates is that everything should be included in the discussion session, meaning after the results, you are expected to conclude everything in the discussion session, meaning your conclusion goes with the discussion session. Let's have this at the back of our mind. If you download a couple of articles in that journal, you will see what is expected. And just like I showed us on Monday, go and read the guideline to the authors. You will see if they are so magnanimous enough, they will spell out how they want each section of the article to flow. So from there, you will know that this is what this journal want me to do. So let me see now if I can share one. Okay, let's go to interdisciplinary material. It's an open access journal. Yeah. So let's share this, for example. So let me increase the font, the size. Now this is author's guideline. Of course, we have the number one thing is the submission, aim and scope, manuscript types, preparing the submission, experimental design, description and validation, and all that. Okay, let's see if they give an insight into how, all right, how the article should flow. All right. In this case, I've seen some parts, but I'm talking about what is it called now? Conclusion in particular. I want to see more details. They talk about how tables should be okay, how tables should be formatted and other aspects. I just want to see more. Okay. What they did is to state their expectations as to how different, some certain parts, like let's just start from the beginning. They noted that they talk about manuscript type, then the abstract, not required. Okay, that's short communication, sorry. That's type of article. They're talking about type of articles in that place. Preparing for submission, part of the manuscript, okay? Part of the manuscript. So you try as much as possible to visit the author's guideline. With that, you'll be able to see what they expect. They said the submitted file should be presented in the following order: the title, the abstract and keyword, the main text, the references. Okay, the main text. Now it simply means that at this point where they have the main text now, a number of things are locked up inside the main text. That's where you have the introduction. That's where you have the method, materials and method. That's where you have the result and discussion and the conclusion that we are even talking about. So they move from there to table and they talk about figure and legend and supporting information and all that. So they talk about title page. The title page should contain a short informative, okay? Now they are giving descriptions of what the title should look like. Okay? Then they talk about authorship, that is how how authorship is determined, the acknowledgement, conflict of interest, the abstract. They said the abstract should be about 260 words and that the keyword should be 3 to 6 words or keyword. Then the main text. All right, now look at this. You see, they said where they have the main text, they have broken it down at this point by saying that authors should use the subheadings required for the article type as specified in the section manuscript type. Of course, there are different types of manuscript, meaning you can have a theoretical article, conceptual article, whatever. That's what they mean. But they now say that original article manuscript, meaning an article that you collect data for, particularly primary data, should be structured. This is where I'm going. That is, for you to know whether your conclusion, which we are treating this evening, would be a stand-alone subheading or is going to be part of your discussion. Then it simply means you will have to read this. Now let's pay attention. At this point, you can see that it says original article article manuscript should be structured using the following sections. 1. Introduction. 2. Methods. 3. Results. 4. Discussion. 5. Acknowledgement. 6. Disclosure. 7. References. And when relevant, supporting information. I will open this mic and allow us to talk. What did we observe in relation to what we want to do this evening on the screen before us and that part that is highlighted? The mic is open. What is your observation?
On my end, yeah, I believe you intend sharing your screen, but I can't see anything. Your screen is not shared so far.
My screen is shared. I'm using another system to monitor what I'm doing. Please, maybe you can refresh your laptop or your phone. You'll be able to see what we have. I can see my screen on another device. Maybe that will be fine if you refresh or you log out and log in.
Doctor, I'm seeing your screen at my end.
Okay.
All right. All right, thank you so much. So, in relation to the what we have just discussed so far about introduction, about conclusion, what's can we make of this area that is highlighted before us vis-a-vis conclusion?
Doctor, what I can make up here is that the disclosure is the same thing as the conclusion you are trying to talk about. So it's part of the article now, sir.
Okay, I'll come to that, but I'll come to that. Any other person, please? Any other person?
What I can see here is that the discussion and the conclusion will be together since it is not being specified as part of the main work. So it comes under immediately after the discussion.
Thank you so much. And what is the implication of that? It means you will do your discussion. It is under the discussion that you will have the significance of the study, the implication of the study, the contribution you have made, the conclusion. Everything have to come under the discussion session. So it simply means your discussion should not be a standalone discussion. That is exactly what this has has told us. That's what we can make of this. So meanwhile, let's see another journal, for example. Let us look at another one. Just a minute. Let me share this tab now. So let's just look for other. Please, can you just mention your feed? Any feed?
Yes, computer science or science.
Accounting.
Okay, let's look at computer science. Let's look at computer science. This computational mechanics, computer science application.
Biochemistry.
All right, we'll see them one after the other. Let's just pay attention. Let's look at this, for example. Let's go for open access journal this time around so that we can be on the safer side. All these journals are open access. So let's look at, let's just open one and look at, let's open one and look at what they say. So now I want to go to how to publish in this journal. So I will open this. I will switch off the mic now. Somebody is interfering. So, how to publish in this journal? Is that okay? Here is the journal, and I'm increasing the font size so that we can see it. Is it increasing on your, okay, I think it should increase on your side. So if you click on instruction for authors, this is, I'm hovering my mouse on that place. If I click on it, you will see it will display to us what is expected of authors. Okay, I will increase it again. It appears my screen is not moving at your own speed. What is going on? Please let me find out if my screen is moving at their speed also. Please, is my screen moving at your own speed, because the second device here seems to be frozen.
No, doctor, it's not moving.
It's not moving at your speed.
Yes, it's not moving at all.
Okay, just a minute. What would have happened? Let me refresh my page. Okay, I've refreshed my page. Has it moved on your side?
Yes, doctor, it's moving.
All right, thank you. So now I increase the size of my font for you to see, and I'm heading to instructions for authors, which is the very first thing here. So I'm clicking on that. All right. So what do we, let's see what the instruction is regarding different sections of the article. Okay. All right. Now, from this point, let me see. From this title page, they explain what should be, what's a title of an article should look like. They said article title should be concise and informative. Please avoid abbreviation and formulae where possible, unless they are established and widely known or understood, e.g. DNA. Okay, now let's move forward. These are other parts. They talk about abstract, they talk about keyword, highlights, then graphical abstracts, mass formulae, table, figure, artwork, figure color, generative AI, the use of generative AI, supplemental material, video, research data, data link, research elements, article structure. Okay. Yeah, this is formatting. This is how they expect the article to be formatted. The information we are looking for, we have not gotten that. And they talk about references. All right. So if you want to publish in an article, in a journal, you should read, go through this to see if the structure that the expect is highlighted on this page. If not, the next thing to do is to download a copy of the article, or just go to the previous, this is articles and issue. Let's look at all issues, for example. If I click on all issues, let's look at any of the volume. Let's just look at volume 8, for example. Volume 8. And let's look at one of the articles. These are systematically reviewed. These are systematic review. Okay, let's look at one that is not systematic. I'm not sure if my screen. Please, are you seeing my screen moving? Oh God. Okay.
No, doctor, your screen is not moving. It's not...
I have.
Your screen is not moving.
What about now?
It's now that it just moved.
Okay, thank you. So please let me just bring us to what we are trying to do. What we are trying to do is we are trying to check what each journal what the practice is or the convention is in every journal. And we want to see that on the page where you have author's guideline, is it explicit enough whether your article should have a separate conclusion section or your conclusion should be fused or infused into your discussion? That's what we want to know. And the first one we checked, we find out that they did not put any, they even put out every, they showed different aspects of the different section of a manuscript, and there was nothing like conclusion there. So that suggests to us expressly that they don't want a separate discussion session. And now we have moved to another article, another journal, to see if we are going to see such information on the author's guideline page, but we couldn't find it. Since we could not find it, the major information we have on that page is how to format and how to arrange, how they should follow each other. But specifically, they did not tell us how those sessions, which of the sessions are expected, and the totality of the section that are expected. So in this case, we are not so sure what is expected. So what do we want to do? What we are supposed to do is to launch into that journal and open any of their issues, any of their publications, open the article and see how, it flows. Open one or two. I'm opening about two now. And from there we can see if, just a minute, we want to see if, let me click on it directly. I say view on PDF. So why okay, it's now opening. All right, this is one. This has opened. Let me share this tab. Okay, and now I go for, I'm still trying to open that page. I just want us to see it. Let's scroll down. This is the introduction. I will scroll very fast and see if you can go to the last part for us to see. All right. I'm sharing this tab. So I've opened one of the articles. Please, can you see my screen and see the article, the conclusion section of the article?
Yes, doctor. We can see.
All right, thank you. So now, from what we have seen so far now, we can see that there are journals that expect you to have the conclusion section separate. There are some that we expect that you blend you infuse your conclusion into the discussion session. So those are the things I just want us to see, so that when we start discussing in details, one would not say that, but I have seen something different from this. Why is it like this? So that is that about that. Please, let's go back to the meat of the matter. All right. So that is that about how a conclusion session in an article can be. It depends on where you want to publish. Let's move forward. So let's look at the fundamentals of an effective conclusion in an article. How should they flow? What are the things that are expected? What are the components of a good article? Of a good conclusion in an article. Whether you are infusing it into the conclusion session, until the discussion session, or it's going to be a standalone. What are those things that are necessary? And also, I want to believe that this evening, I wish we are able to touch on something which we skipped in the outline of this module. And what is that? It has to do with theory and theoretical framework and conceptual framework. We want to see if we can touch on it, so that we can understand the importance of theory and frameworks in article writing, not only in article writing, but for those who are doing masters and PhD in particular. Those things are very necessary and they're very important when you are writing. So I pray we are able to cover that, but whichever way we'll touch on it. A conclusion is not a mere summary. Conclusion is different from what is it called now? From abstract. Let me throw it open to the house. Please, what is the difference between an abstract and the conclusion of your study? Can somebody tell us? The difference between abstract and conclusion. What is the difference? Or what are the differences?
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, please. The abstract comprises after the introduction, then the method, then the course, and then conclusion recommendation. But the conclusion aspect is highlighting the key findings of your research. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Any other person? All right. No problem. Let's continue. Somebody is talking, but we are not hearing. Hello, please.
Good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
Good evening, Doc.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The abstract talks about the totality of the work, beginning from the introduction. Please turn off that thing. Beginning from introduction to findings, beginning from introduction to the various dimensions and measures where necessary, and then up to methodology, findings, statistical too. That's
Okay.
methodology, right?
Yeah.
Then findings, conclusion, recommendation, and then future direction.
Okay. Thank
You
you
understand
so.
then?
Okay.
Why conclusion talks about your key, that's your position
Okay.
from the findings.
All right.
Your position from the finding.
All right.
Based on the studies and the study you carried out here.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much. That's an elaborate one. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you. So let's continue with the class. Then we'll begin to see exactly what the conclusion represents and how it is different from the abstracts. So a conclusion is not a summary. It is the opportunity to leave a lasting impression. You have discussed about your findings in the discussion session, but now you want to leave an impression. Everything you have said up until the point of discussion, you want to leave an impression in the mind of the reader to say that this guy identified this problem. He reviewed the literature, he told us the significance of it, he showed us the gap. Now, he told us how this study is situated within the existing body of knowledge via literature. He used the right methodology, which gave the right methodology, which gave the right results. And of course, the discussion was excellent. He was able to convince us that these are the major findings and these are their implications. Policy implication, method, practice, and even in the literature. Okay, he has been able to do that. So now, what is the summary of this whole effort? How can it be summarized? I mean, when I say summarized, how can it be said that the problem that he said he identified, he's been able to profile not a solution, but he's been able to bring a contribution. He's been able to bring about an improvement on that situation. And he's been able to tell us expressly the significance, the contribution, and of course, the area he has not been able to cover, and what measure or what method can be adopted, or what inquiry scientific method can be adopted to cover the area he has not covered. So it's not a summary, but an opportunity to craft these things I have said. That is, is bringing to bear what the real argument is all about. That's where it starts from. Bring to mind, what is this, the scope of this work, what is it about? Then, what are those things that he actually found? What are the key things he found? You may find out 5 things, but these 5 things, can they be synthesized into 1 or 2, points? And how do they, of what significance is them? Do they answer that question? Remember, we keep saying what, how, when, then, so what? So, can this answer the so what question? You say you found this problem. Okay. You found this. This is your result. Fine. This is your discussion. Okay. So what? Of what significance it is? That is what can be demonstrated at this conclusion session. And the closure should be such that, will ring in the mind of the reader, and of course the way forward. Because nobody can claim to solve a problem in its totality in research. There will be other means of improving on what has been done. So what are the core components of a conclusion session in an article? Regardless of any discipline, the first thing to do is to reframe or bring to mind what this study intends to achieve. The focus, let me put it that way, the focus of that study should be brought to mind. So, the focus of the study should be what should come first, not a repetition of the results, not what has been said in the discussion session, particularly in this case now from what we did earlier, when your conclusion session is separate from the discussion session. So if that is the case, there is no need for repetition. All you need to do is bring to mind what is the main argument, what is the thesis, if I can use that word. What is the thesis? Or what is the hypothesis? Or what is the research question? Let's find a way of bringing them forward. Use fresh language to circle back to the opening, question, like I've just said. Then connect to the bigger picture that was established in the introduction, meaning that it could come in the form of saying that with the result of this study, or this study has shown, the result of this study has shown that this and this and this will now be a description of a response to the gap that you identify and the aims that you set out to achieve from the introduction. We're going to see example. So number 2 is that it should be the summary of the main arguments or what you found out. The important points should be stretched out, highlighted, and they must respond to the research question that has been raised. Remember, if we look at our topic very well, the title you choose when you start writing, or that you eventually settled for, that title and the research question and hypothesis that follow can be summarized in a way that it will just be one research question. Remember, even in thesis or article, in some cases, we do have main research question and we have sub-questions. So, when writing the conclusion, the first statement in your conclusion or the second should be a response to your main research question. Remember, I said it is possible for you to have 2-3 questions, 2-3 objectives, 2-3 aims, But majorly, if you remember when we were doing introduction, after the aim has been stated in some places, the authors will go ahead to say specifically, meaning that they want to now break down those aims or objective or research questions. But now at your conclusion session, you are to respond to the overarching, that's another name that is given to main research question or primary research question. Usually you call it primary primary, main, or overarching, either of these three names, meaning that that is the question that responds that resonates with the title of that work, the first course of that work. So you are not going to be picking those hypotheses one after the other, in some cases, because we have different types of conclusion, and we're going to see that what determines the size of a conclusion would be the type of writing you are doing. Is it a thesis? Is it an article? Then is it are you required to subscribe or to abide by a particular way of writing conclusion? So what will determine the number of results that you can allude to in your conclusion is a function of the type of document you are dealing with. If it is a thesis, you can do 3-4 different conclusions that you can draw conclusion based on 3-4 or more research question. But when you are doing an article, you don't have that luxury of space. So you will have to summarize the focus of your work into one statement that responds to the research question. Very, very important. So, but if you are doing other form of writing, like I said, a thesis, you have the luxury of space and time to do that. It has to be concise without any redundancy. Another component is the discussion of implication. It is important to state the implication. So now, it would now be as if, why are we talking about implication here again? Remember, in the conclusion session, in the discussion session, you've talked about the implication. And now, if you have 3 or 4 different paragraphs in which you have been responding to your finding, describing and interpreting your results, it means you may have 2 or 3 or 4, form of implication you are responding to in the discussion. But when you get to the conclusion session, those implications should be synthesized. It has to be broader. You look at it, awesomely, not breaking them, one after the other. That is a situation where you have the two separated. And also, in some cases, you may not discuss implication within the conclusion. People who are in such field will understand what I'm talking about. For example, those who are in social sciences, they understand what I'm saying. That you only discuss your conclusion by restating the focus of the work and how your results has been able to respond to that, and the significance. 3 things here. The scope you bring to mind, the focus of the work. The next statement is how your study has been able to respond to it. Number 3 is the significance or the contribution of that work. Now, another session will now be created after conclusion will now be created for implication of the study, or immediately after the discussion session. The implication can come under a different subheading. I just want us to have understanding of this and have an open mind, so that when we now come across things that are different, we will not begin to ask questions, but we were taught that implications significance, everything should come under conclusion. It is important to pay attention to the journal you are writing for. And also, another thing that is important is if you get to that journal and you download a couple of articles and you see that there is no, and you go to their, what is it called? You go to their author's guideline page, there is no specification. You download few articles, there is no consensus, or what I mean is there is no pattern. What I mean by pattern is everybody, you read this article, discussion is different from session is distinct from conclusion. And you read another one still on the same journal. In the same journal, you see that discussion and conclusion are fused together. You pick another article, you see that discussion is separate, conclusion is separate, implication for practice is separate, implication for policy is separate. Then you know that so long these articles are of different styles and they are all published in this journal, it simply means I can choose a convenient form of writing in my own case, because now I understand the intricacies of these things. It is me that choose whether I want to infuse my conclusion into my discussion with implications and suggestion and limitations. So you will be the one to choose that. No, now when you run into such a case, my best advice, when you are at liberty to determine how this should be organized, is to space them out. What I mean is, let the discussion be on its own. It is now at your discretion whether you want to infuse implication, limitation, suggestion for further studies into discussion. It is you that will now determine if your conclusion will just be one paragraph that will just state the focus of the work, the significance of the focus of that will restate the focus of the work, what your work has done, the results, with if it has actually filled the gap you intended to fill, and what is the significance and what contribution you have done. So it is you that will determine that. If you are at liberty to do that, now that becomes your writing style. And it is always good that you are able to do this, because, like we always say, reviewers, editors, they don't have the luxury of time of trying to search for what you are writing without you making what you're writing or what you mean to be conspicuous. It's an opportunity for you to make your writing conspicuous and what you are writing. It is an opportunity for you to make them distinct and clear to anybody that reads. I could say the other time, it is always good if a reader does not struggle to fish out what you are writing in the midst of multitude of long paragraphs. And if you are going to fuse everything also under discussion, you make sure that at the beginning of every paragraph, because if discussion and conclusion are expected to be fused together, that tells you that you are going to have elongated discussion, meaning you have about 4 or 5 paragraphs. So it means that at the beginning of each paragraph, the leading statement, which is the topic sentence, should tell the reader that you are talking about limitation here, that you are talking about implication in this paragraph, that you are talking about contribution in this paragraph, that you are talking about suggestion for further study in this paragraph. I don't know if what I am saying is clear. I hope I'm not confusing someone. Please, if you are there, or let me just put it this way, is what I'm saying clear to us so far?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
All right, thank you. So I don't want to box us into a corner. I don't want to box us into a corner whereby you would think this is the only way this to be done. No. What I want us to do is to have to understand how this thing works, the dynamics of it, The dynamics is dictated by the journal. The dynamics is dictated by us. By the time you get to a journal, you find out that this journal does not have a specific way of doing this, then you are at liberty to use your discretion and write based on your writing style. And that is why you have the opportunity to also shine, because what you are writing is coming from understanding, because you are trying to marshal some points to the reader. So let's continue. Another thing is acknowledgement of limitations. We've talked about this. If it doesn't come under discussion, ensure that you allude to that under the conclusion. Everything we discussed about limitation in the previous class apply here without wasting time. Let's go to the next one. Another thing is feature direction or recommendation. It can also come under conclusion. So, with what we have said, we believe we understand what to do at different points. And when we are writing that, we are going to see example. Let's just look at some tips. Before you start writing, ensure that whatever you want to write, make sure you have your introduction in mind. That is, what exactly did I promise in my introduction? You have to deliver on that. That first statement must deliver on that. That must bring to mind, the first statement should bring to mind what you intend to do. And two, at the introduction, the following statement should be a delivery of your promise. And you would have to state maybe 2-3 of your findings, but all these have to be craftily done. You don't have the luxury of time in some cases. And these are the things that should form the core of your conclusion. Make sure that you pay attention to the audience you're writing for. Another thing we need to know when it comes to article writing is that audience matter. Audience matters. For example, excuse me, if you are writing to submit to a journal that has to do with policy, in their scope, if you go read the the journal's aim and scope, you will see that you will have a feel of whether they are writing to, whether they are publishing to inform policy. I mean, some journal will make it distinct, as in you will see that, okay, it's not as if they are not writing for other purposes, but the fact remains that some journals, you can pick it from that aim and scope of the journal that the readers, their audience, are policymakers. What about if it is for practitioner? You can also pick it from there. So what does that mean? It simply means when you now start writing your conclusion, you must write it in a way that the implication will speak to the audience of that journal. Are they policymakers? Are they practitioners? Are they scholars? Very important. And also, ensure that you don't leave out answering the so what question. The so what question. That is, now that you have found out this, what next? All right. Now, while you are writing, start strong. Use clear transition. One thing is very important in article writing. Your transition. You see, your transition matters a lot. I want us to pay attention to that phrase bank material that's, we shared with everyone. Go and pay attention to it. They will do a lot, because transitioning from one statement to another one, the beginning of that statement will mean a lot, will indicate what you want to talk about. We're going to see example, maybe a few of them. So maintain appropriate tone and be very concise in the conclusion. Let it be focused. And after you have finished writing your conclusion, read it, and read it. Is it a standalone that answered the previous question? Check if there is coherence. And find out if you have answered the so what question. Ensure that your conclusion is at par with your introduction. And if possible, you can give it to somebody to read to get a feedback. Let's look at length and structure. length and structure that I alluded to the other time. How long should your conclusion section be when you are writing? It can be determined by the type of research you are carrying out. So let's see one after the other. The length of the conclusion, if you are writing an article, should be between 1 to 2 paragraphs, which is approximately 250 to 500 words. For master thesis, for those who are doing master thesis, it could bring between 2 to 4 pages. Like I said earlier, it is an opportunity to restate your research hypothesis, your research question, your research objectives and aims, and you respond to them one after the other. Then for doctoral dissertation, it could be from 5 pages to 15 pages. It all depends on what your institution dictates. Because in many cases, you would have to create sections for each of your hypotheses. I'm aware of institutions that do that, and I think I did that in my PhD. So you will have to bring to bear each research question and how you were able to respond to the so what question. Then, if it's a conference paper, 1 paragraph is okay, between 150 and 300 words. If it's a book chapter, you can have to 1 to 3 pages. It all depends on what. Of course, book chapter also have their own convention. Read what is expected and align with it. Very important. Then, how should it be structured? For a short conclusion, such as an article or a paper, 1 paragraph that will include the very first one. The first paragraph should restate the main argument plus the key findings. The second one should be to talk about the implication, the limitation, and the future direction, that is suggestion for further studies. For a medium-sized conclusion, as we have it in thesis, it could have section 1. You have to synthesize the finding, the theoretical implication, the limitations will be a section on its own, the recommendation for future research will be a standalone, and the concluding part will be the one to come first, the last one now, which we now summarize everything that you have done from 1 to 4. And if you are doing an extended dissertation as it applies in PhD, sorry, just a minute, somebody is interfering. It simply means that you will have to have an extended conclusion session where you will have an introduction that gives an overview of the entire study. You will have to talk about the summary of your finding by research question, that is 1 research question per time, the theoretical contribution, the political policy, the political or policy, implication, methodological reflection, limitations and delimitation, recommendation for practice, direction for future research, and concluding synthesis of all of this from 1 to 7. That is that about that. So what are those strategies that you can imbibe while you are writing a memorable conclusion? 1, ensure that you bring the introduction to bear. That's 1. We have stated that. Number 2 approach is you have to start with your specific findings. That's another approach. That is, you state the findings, then you start with the findings. But the previous one we said is that you bring the, what is it called now? You bring the introduction first. Then you move to how they fill the gap. But in this case, the second approach we're talking about, the second style we're talking about is you zoom out, meaning you start from the findings. Then you now state the implication on how they are able to meet or fill the gap that you identify. So you start from, the study, what exactly is all about, then how do they resonate with your field, then the humanity generally, and future possibility. This is very common in health science or life sciences. These out, they just come, in most cases, they just take especially what was found out and the implication in the field, and of course to practice, to humanity, to society, and they go to the future, direction. In also, there is another style that that starts with a call to action. That is, it could come in form of these findings demand immediate actions. Policy must be revised, and in a way that speaks to the current guideline. Practitioners should implement evidence-based protocol, and research must investigate this. So this is, this is a way of starting with a call to action form of writing. So, but even at that, it will still end up bringing to bear the focus of that work. And of course, still talk about the implication, the limitations, and all the rest of them. Every of these style talks, would have to feature what, we have talked about. So, then another form is starting with a provocative question by saying that, you just ask a question, and the question, of course, will still bring to mind what exactly is the focus of this work. For example, like what we see now, that says, if algorithmic bias reflects societal inequalities, must we address social justice before we can achieve fair AI? Now, what this statement brings to mind is that this work, the focus is about how AI algorithm is biased, and it further widen the scope of inequality. For example, when we look at the knowledge landscape, the scholarly landscape, you will find out that if a study set out to study the role of AI in knowledge creation, you will find out that there is every tendency that AI is biased in favor of the global north, because the materials that were used to train the AI, a good number of them are from the global north. So when you put anything into ChatGPT now, there is every likelihood that the kind of response we have will be tilted towards, will skew in favor of the northern hemisphere. We are aware also now that, of course, people from the global south, they are now fighting that, and they are beginning to make sure that indigenous AI are being created. That's what actually brings about that. So you can start with that. So if you start with a provocative question, it is still talking about the idea. One can still read that the point you are trying to make is to address the inequality that that AI creates to widen the gap, between different social classes or regions of the world. So that is how to use provocative question. Then the forward-looking one is another way of writing conclusion, to start with conclusion. It paints a picture of what the future could look like if your recommendations are followed. For example, imagine healthcare system where predictive analytics identify at-risk patients before symptoms emerge. And you now go further to say that this study have been able to do this, or this is what, this study responds to this, or prefer an approach to mitigate or to, so you just continue from there. So that is that about that. But by and large, out of these 5, the most often used one is to start with the restating the focus of the work. That's the most common one that is usually used. Every other one, it requires skill and those who are well grounded in that in writing for them to do that. Because if you use them, in most cases, some reviewers who are used to a particular way of review, the moment they see it, they may use it against you. So except you are very, very, except you are very grounded in that, using, any of these five, or sorry, any of the four that follows may be an issue if you don't know how to craft it very well. So let's look at some specific, some discipline-specific approaches that can be used. Let's look at education and social sciences, for example. When, in every field, the focus of each field or each discipline can be summarized in many cases. That is, why are we writing articles? Those who are in education, those who are in social science, why are we writing? Of what effect, of what benefits will it be? So, our conclusion or our article in totality are characterized by some things. And what are they? One, emphasis on practical implication for educators, that is practitioners, that's teachers, for policymakers, for practitioners. And the focus on social impact and, of course, how this can be applied in real world. So, in many cases, it's about practice, a change in practice, improvement in practice, in policy and all the rest of them, inequality, access, social issues and all the rest of them. So these are the things that characterize broadly research in social science and education. And that's it. What does that bring to mind? But that brings to mind is when you are concluding, your conclusion must hang or hinge on any of these characteristics. There could be more, but ensure that you understand the focus. That is, you have done the right thing. You have done beautifully well. We have done everything you needed to do. But this time around, you are concluding who should listen to you, of what use is it to people. So the structure should be that you restate the educational problem that you investigated, summarize the key findings, discuss the implication, acknowledge the contextual limitation, and recommend specific intervention or practice that are needed. And of course, feature research direction. This progression is what is expected. So now I'll move a little bit fast now so that we can touch on some of the things that we need to do. Example, now we are going into details of examples. This study explored the impact of collaborative learning strategy on students' engagement in secondary school mathematics classroom. All right, that's bringing to mind what was done. The next one is to talk about what the results, what was found out. That is the ability of, an expression that respond to the gap that was initially promised will be filled. So now you will see that the area that is written in pink says, results demonstrated that students in collaborative settings show 35% higher engagement level compared to traditional instruction. As we keep saying in this class, please, you may have to neutralize the thinking about discipline right now, and let's focus on the structure. Let's take away our mind from discipline. Let's look at the flow and the structure. What is this telling us? It simply means that the first statement reiterates the focus of the work. The second statement talks about how this study is able to fill in the gap. Remember, if you read the first statement, it says the study explored the impact of collaborative learning strategy. Meaning that the gap that was identified in the first place was, it has to do with engagement, problem with engagement. That is, there are different types of learning strategies. One of it is collaborative learning strategy. So, if your study also has, if maybe in practice, if what you want to look at is in practice, if there are different ways of different practices or mode of doing that particular, activity, and now you are saying this activity is, these approaches are deficient. So all I want to do is to inquire, to carry out a research that would be an improvement on the deficiencies of other approaches. So in this case now, collaborative learning strategy is an approach of learning. It's a strategy. And we want to see how it makes students to collaborate, to engage. So now remember, another way of teaching and learning is the teacher focus, the teacher center approach. Teacher center approach simply means that teacher is the only one talking. The students are passive. So another one here now is the collaborative learning, meaning when you have students, when you allow students to come together to learn, their engagement increases. But previously using other method, the result was lower. So the point we are making here is, in the conclusion session, state the focus of the study, then follow by how that study or your finding or results result or findings has been able to meet that gap, by saying that result demonstrated that students in collaborative settings show 35% higher engagement level compared to traditional instruction. Two things now. One, statement of what was done, of the focus. Two, how the result is able to meet the gap that was earlier identified. Number three, these findings have significant implication. Can you see now? Implication is coming here for mathematics pedagogy, suggesting that restructuring classroom dynamics to emphasize peer interaction can substantially enhance student participation and conceptual understanding. Can you see that? Now you see that the implication and the significance were crafted into a single statement. And when you look at this, in some cases, you may not mention, or you see articles, let me put it that way, or you may not mention whether you are addressing the policymaker, the practitioner, or even the scholars, body of knowledge. Particularly when you begin to see things like this study has been able to has given us a better understanding as against the previous, understanding in this regard, you will know that the article is talking about a contribution and significance to knowledge. So as you can see now, it says suggesting that restructuring classroom dynamics to emphasize peer interaction can substantially enhance students' participation and conceptual understanding. This will tell us expressly that restructuring classroom dynamics is the function of the teacher. So he's talking to practitioners. You can infer from that. So the next thing in the blue part is, like any other study, the study was limited to one school district. Can you see that? Limitation acknowledged. Limitation acknowledged. And the next thing we have in the yellow part is future research to examine how collaborative strategy can be scaled across diverse. That is suggestion for further studies. So these are the dynamics of a typical conclusion session of an article. All right, let's look at natural science, for example, those in physics, biology, and chemistry. It has to be concise. The statements or the hypothesis that we are putting forth, it has to be clearly stated in the opening of in the opening session. And not only that, the statement that follows must also be an indication of filling a gap. And the scientific contribution and theoretical implication also have to be clearly stated. And when you are making suggestion, it also has to come in that, in the same manner. And it is possible to discuss broader implication at this point. Okay? The structure are almost the same. Restate the research question or hypothesis, state the findings clearly and definitely, and explain how results advance scientific understanding, acknowledge methodological limitation and all that. So let's not waste much time on this. Let's look at an example here. The example we have on the screen states, this investigation examines the role of microRNA-21 in regulating cellular apoptosis in breast cancer cell. Our findings demonstrate that overexpression of MIR21 significantly inhibits apoptotic pathways, contributing to tumor cell survival. That is a response to the research gap and the aims and objectives that was earlier mentioned. This result provides molecular evidence supporting the hypothesis that MIR21 functions as an oncogenic regulator in breast cancer progression. Okay, that is the implication, the significance of this work. Now, the next statement in blue states, while this study utilized in vitro cell line model, future research validates these findings in vivo using animal model and ultimately in clinical sample to determine therapeutic potential. So now the last thing is that's understanding the precise mechanism by which MIR interacts with downstream targets remain an important direction for cancer biology research. That is to tell us that understanding, that is to say, an increase in knowledge to researcher. That is, you can see that though it was not said that the implication is for the researchers or scholar or to the body of knowledge, but the word understanding simply means that this study make a contribution to the existing body of knowledge. So this is how in health sciences we have the same thing, and it goes on and on and on and on and on like that. So when one of the things that characterize conclusion in medical science or health science is the clinical or the public health implication are emphasized. The practical application for patient's care or practitioner, if this focus is on medical practitioners. So recommendations are also highlighted. Implication for policy or practice. And of course, it is important also to allude to the ethical dimension of such findings. So let's look at an example. An example here says, this randomized control trial this study, or whichever one, examine the efficacy of mindfulness-based stress reduction in managing chronic pain among adults with fibromyalgia. Now, result shows that you can always see that after stating the first, the focus of the work, the next thing is what the result is able to do. The result shows that participants in MBSR intervention group experienced a 42% reduction in pain intensively. So you see, the next paragraph talk about these findings have important clinical implication. So these are the ways this conclusion section should flow. Future research should examine this and that. So I think we this is for computer science, but I think we understand exactly how this progression is without necessarily overflogging the matter, overflogging the whole thing. This is an example in computer science. The paper presented a novel deep learning architecture for real-time semantic segmentation in autonomous vehicle navigation. Our model achieved 89% mean intersection over union on the city space data set, and all that and all that. And when you look at this part, the later part of the blue part says representing a 23% improvement over existing state-of-the-art approaches. I think we can see how, the structure, how it should be. The first statement should be to state what was done. The second one is how has it able to respond and answer the question. So the next one is to the implication. The next one is the limitation, and the next one is the future recommendation. And of course, we have the similar thing in business research. We are going to make this available to everybody to download. We have also for humanities, the approaches are the same. The approaches are the same. So let's not overflog this. Discipline-specific checklist for you. From what we have said, some of the things we said here, we have on this screen right now, we have already discussed them. So they are just things that you need to pay attention to for you to, when you are writing your conclusion session. If I'm not going to, without much ado, I want to open the mic for 1 or 2 minutes before we talk about the last thing for today, which is theoretical framework and conceptual framework, and how they feature in our work. Question and question or a need for clarification. The mic is open. All right, Dr. Benjamin Abomirigo.
Hello, good evening. I was going to find out, but I'm okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So, in the meantime, before we move to the next thing, let us quickly look at 1 or 2 examples. But I want to believe so strongly that we understand what we have discussed so far. And let me see if we can open a few. All right. So let's look at them in real life studies that have been published. Okay, let's look at the beginning of this work. Let me just go there very fast. And this work is the title of the work is Investigation of Groundwater Circulation Model in the Juiquan Basin. All right. And let's see if we can. All right. Okay, from here, you can see that the aim of the study was stated in the area I'm trying to highlight now. The research aims to reveal spatial differentiation in groundwater research. Okay, flow and age cross different geomorphic units and hydraulic zone. All right, and it went further to say by delineating, but this is just the scope of the work. That's the aim of the work. We have seen that. Let's go to the conclusion, if it has anything to say or if it corresponds to this. Let's go to the discussion session. The discussion says, the study systematically investigated the groundwater circulation pattern in the Juiquan Basin using hydrological surveys table and all that and all that. Now from here, that is the first statement. You remember what we said earlier. It is important to state the focus of the work, to restate it. And now from this point, we can see that the next thing is the research confirmed that precipitation is the dominant source of groundwater research in the basin. Can you see that? So you can see that in one statement, they were able to respond to the research question, the aim of the study. And they went further to do a bit of more explanation on that. Let's see if they adhere to some of the things that we discussed earlier. Let's move to this side. These are just further explanation. These places are just further explanation. Like I said, if you have the luxury of time, you have the opportunity of, of talking more, of explaining more about the findings and the significance. But let's see if they alluded to some of the things we have discussed earlier. Now let's look at this part that says, these findings not only deepens the understanding of groundwater research and flow mechanism in an arid inline basin, but also provides scientific basis for regional water source management and ecological protection. Please, the mic is open. Can we see that part? Hello?
Yeah.
All right. So we can see now that this study has a separate conclusion session, and the conclusion session follow the pattern that we've been talking about, meaning that the focus of the study was reiterated, and the findings, were captured in a way that respond to the gap that they intended to fill. And not only that, they went further to state the implication. So let's just do a bit of practical now. Please, I just want us to read what we have, this area that I highlighted, and see if you can make sense of who these implications are for. Okay? Please, if you can read, I believe we can all read from the area that I've just highlighted. Who are the beneficiaries of these findings? Who are, if you look at the categories that we have practitioners, we have policy, we have body of knowledge, which are the scholars, the researchers. So who do these findings speak to among them? Hello? The mic is open, I believe. Please, who do we think this speak to?
Speaking to scholars.
Thank you, ma.
And then management.
Management.
Resource managers.
Thank you so much.
Resource managers.
Oh, all right.
Policymakers.
Policymakers.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
To practitioners.
To practitioners. All right. So now we can see how, this section is brought to bear in this section. In the conclusion section. And also, we can see that they also acknowledge the limitations. Just a moment. All right. I think they went for that. I want to see if they said the delineation of multiple secondary flow system underscore the complex of this and that and the necessity. Okay. All right. This is it. I'm coming. All right.
Future studies should.
Sorry?
Future studies.
Yes, they talk about future studies, but expressly, they did not make it distinctly clear. Though something like that was stated here, but what I want to bring out here is, I expect them to make the limitation, to express the limitation clearly, and that this is the limitation. Okay? But rather, what we have here is future studies should focus on coupling this and all that. Now we can see that they acknowledge that there is an area, of course, making recommendation about future study is also an acknowledgement of limitation. So in other words, even though they did not state limitation of the study, but in their recommendation for future studies, the limitation is acknowledged. That's the point I'm trying to make. So it is very important for us to pay attention to how these things are woven together, and how we can imbibe them in our studies also. Let me see another one. This study, okay, let's see. Okay, I want to see the discussion session. All right, this study we are looking at on the screen is also another one. This is the discussion section and suggestion. As you can see, from this title, we can understand that discussion and suggestion is an indication that the conclusion section might not be expressly stated, meaning everything is together. So now let me just scroll. You will see that the discussion started from here downward, and there was no separate conclusion session. Rather, we keep seeing like theoretical. Okay, when the discussion was done, the theoretical implication was discussed, meaning that it is the study has two implications. One is theoretical implication, as you can see here. As we said on Monday, they talk about theoretical implication, and they also discussed the practical management implications. Those are the things the study discussed, and they went further to talk about the limitation of the study and future research. So, of course, I have no luxury of time to check if this is the practice in this journal. If you check this journal and you find out that this is the pattern, it simply means if you are writing for this journal, you have to abide by this. And if not, then it depends on how you want to write, which we have discussed earlier, which will be your style. So, just one more, then we'll leave this area. Let's look at this study. I'm sharing this tab now. Here is another study. Okay, this is the discussion session of this study. And in this discussion session, let's scroll down and see if we have a separate conclusion session. It's in medicine. So let's see. There is no separate session for there's no separate session for conclusion. So meaning that the conclusion is infused into the discussion session. So these are the things that we need to bear in mind when we are writing articles. Can you see where they put the limitation of the study? Can you see that this study does have limitations? You see that? So, and yeah, that is how it flows. So when you look at a journal, that will give you an idea of how you write for them, particularly if they are strict on structure. Like we said when we started, pay attention to structure of the journal. If there is no particular well-defined structure, abide by those principles that we have shared. They will make your work to be distinct and well understood by whoever is reading the work. Please, I need about 5 minutes more or thereabout, or let me just discuss generally. Let me just discuss it generally without wasting much time. One area that we didn't talk about when we started, during this training is the theory, their roles and their importance in article writing, and particularly for those who are writing thesis. A theory is a framework. Let me just start with that. Either theory or a framework. If you are using a theory is a body of knowledge that has been proven over time that can be used to explain situation, phenomena, or understand them. While a conceptual framework is a combination of constructs or concepts or principles from different theories to explain a phenomenon. I state it again. A theory is an embodiment or a body of knowledge that is well organized, synthesized, and in most cases informed by literature, by data, empirical data, and they have been proven over time to hold true in different situations, regardless of context, regardless of so many things. And they are used in a study either to understand a situation, to express or to give a better understanding of knowledge, or to predict knowledge. Those are the things that theories, basically those are the things we use theory for. So it simply means that if you want to adopt a theory in your study, either an article or a thesis, it simply means that you would have to, before you can adopt any theory, your research question, the problem you want to solve, you must have identified it. You must have asked your question, aim, objective, hypothesis. You must have raised all of them. Then you will now find out which theory can be best used to answer this question or to explain this situation. And I want us to also understand that every theory has principles, or what we call either principle or constructs, or just give it a name. So, meaning that a theory can have 2 or 3 or more principles. So, it means each of those principles, or some of those principles, in some cases it might not be all. You can anchor your theory, your thesis or article on a theory, and if the theory has 5 principles, you can make use of 3 or 2. But if you are doing a thesis, I think it is better to look for a theory that explain or speak to your research question and hypothesis and all that. So, of course, we have theories across different disciplines. In some cases, they call it models. They can say theoretical models. In social science, they say theoretical framework. In natural science, you have things like model. And their function is to predict behavior of physical system, to explain causes and mechanism, and to enable experimental design, and of course support hypothesis testing. That's what they do basically. And these are just a few of them. We're also going to share this with you also. These are a few of them and what they do. So basically, when you adopt a theory in a study, what you want to do is my screen. Oh, let me share this. Apology. So what you want to do basically is to use that theory to understand what you want to do, to answer questions, to explain a situation, and of course to grant your work also. So in natural sciences, we have a couple of theoretical models. And I just want us to have understanding briefly how this works. Is if you select a theory or you are using a framework, you must spell out the principles of those theories. That is, these are the principles of this theory, and you must justify the reason why that theory is appropriate for that study by saying that this study, under your theoretical framework, this study adopts Newtonian mechanics. And the next thing will be, you will talk about who is the proponent of that theory, who is that person that propounded that theory. And you move for that. If you want to state the year, you can state the year. Then you move forward to state why that study is appropriate for that. That theory is appropriate for that study. Now you move further to state the principles of that theory. Okay? Now you can do two things while you are explaining the principles. You can, as you state the principle, you state the connection between your study and how that principle is able to explain the research question you are trying to answer. Unfortunately, I don't have a luxury of time this evening to do this. And you move, to make it more practical. Then you move from there, but I believe by the time we share this note with you, you understand much more better. And you move from explanation, you move from explaining the principle one after the other to explaining how that principle is able to explain what you want to state. Let me see if I can give an example. I want to see if I can give an example. If we look at, okay, let's take for instance, if your study is about leadership, let me put it that way. It's about leadership and followership, and you pick a theory, and one of the principles of that theory says that followers are loyal to leaders if they are being cared for. That is empathy. Yeah, that is it. If one of the principles of the leadership theory you are using is empathy, it simply means that you will state that empathy is one, that this theory states that leaders who have empathy towards their followers secure the loyalty of the followers. So now you will have to explain further to state that in the context of this study, I propose or argue that if followers or if leaders are caring enough, they will secure the loyalty of the followers. It's as simple as that. And the same thing, regardless of the field, if you go to another field now, in health sciences, they call it biomedical models. It simply is the same principle across board. That is, if these principles are obeyed, or if this principle hold, this situation is likely to happen, or this will help us to explain this situation better. We are going to share with you this document so that you can make sense of it. Then we have architectural framework. For those who are in computer science and engineering, you deal more with architectural framework. And of course, it helps in system design logic and of course in structure. And the purpose in most cases is to assess system performance and accuracy and see if you can leverage on that principle, the principle of that theory, to improve performance or to give us results better than what we had before. And these are some of the examples of the theories, the models that are often used in that field. And also we have in business and economics, they use strategic frameworks. And the purpose is to guide organizational decision making and analysis. And some of the models that are used, the common one, we have SWOT, Porter's 5 forces, and a number of them that you can think of. The basic thing we are trying to talk about this evening is that theory are used to understand, to explain, and to buttress whichever point we want to make in our story. And if you are writing a conceptual article and you want to use theory, you will first of all review, you will first of all talk about the way what is it called? The way your introduction sound for what we have explained before is what it will sound. Then instead of you to have the what is it called? The literature separately, you can be from the introduction and your research question or proposition, you move directly to the theoretical framework aspect, and now you begin to explain that principle. You justify why you are using the principle. When you justify that, you move ahead to state the principle itself and how it aligns with the study. And one important thing is that you eventually will have to come up with, in the discussion session, how has that model or what is it called now, theory, been able to help you answer the question you wanted to ask in the first place. I just feel that we should bring this to bear so that it won't be as if when we are writing, we don't really have an understanding of what theories and conceptual framework is all about. The same thing goes for those who are writing master and PhD thesis. Let's have it at the back of our mind that these are the way this thing work. We have made it detailed on how they apply. We don't have the time this evening, and because we don't have it in our curriculum, but we just found out that this thing is not there and we just have to bring it to bear. But what we have done to make it easy for everybody is how it applies in every field, and how to even use it when you are writing a conceptual article is also highlighted in this material. It's about 22 pages material. Anybody can pick it. You will see how you can integrate theory and framework into your study when you are writing article or when you are writing a thesis. There are about 4 approaches on how to use it, a conceptual article. I've written a couple of conceptual articles. In fact, I love conceptual articles so much, a couple of them, and I've been able to integrate it. It's one of the areas I love so much while writing, particularly when you don't have a data to work with. Is your best bet and a way to go. Please, this is additional 10 minutes. I would like to stop here. Apology for time taking. Thank you so much for staying to this time. It's time for question as we round up. Hello. Hello, house.
Doctor, I
All right, so that brings us to the end of this evening class. I don't want us to go beyond this time in terms of teaching. We have overshot the time by 10 minutes. We try to make up for the time we lost earlier on. So, all right, sir, we have a hand up. Oh, Dr. Prof, please, good evening, sir. You can go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much for everything.
You're welcome, sir.
Please, I want to, it's like, let me call it my own opinion.
All right, sir.
This aspect of theoretical and conceptual framework,
Yes, sir.
is a cardinal requirement in PhD thesis now.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate you so much for bringing it into this training. But
Thank you, sir.
let me go the way of request. I don't know if we can, anyway, based on your plan, I don't know if you can give a little time more because of some PhD students that are in our midst on this training, so that you can elaborate a little more on it, and they can have a good grasp of it to be able to do their work very well, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for that observation and a request. Like we said, or like I said earlier, it is very important that we touch on it. It was much later we realized that we did not include this in the curriculum. But like you have said, what we are going to do is we will make out time for it. And we are going to announce that. We'll make out time for it. I remember when I was doing masters also, it was a big issue to the extent that some lecturers cannot, they cannot, as in, they cannot, how do I put it now? It was a challenge. Let me just put it that way. It was a major challenge to people. So we will look at it. We'll look at it. We are going to make our time for it, and we address it before the end of this training.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, Dr. Benjamin? Good evening, sir. Your voice is very low. All right. Dr. Nancy Chika? Dr. Chika? Dr. Nelly?
Yes, doctor. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Thank you for the teaching.
You're welcome.
God bless you, sir. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Please, mine is also a request. On the article builder, I went there yesterday to try and do part of my assignment.
Okay.
I discovered that my discipline is not still there. Management sciences is not there. I even posted on the WhatsApp platform.
All right. I'm sharing my screen with you now. And I want to share with us how we can use it to our own advantage. Can you see management science on my screen?
Yes.
All right. This is management science. And it starts from the moment, if you want, what we have been able to do now is we've been able to create an article that will serve as an exemplar for you when you are writing. From the article, from the title to the references, all you have to do is just drop, these drop downs one after the other. Everything we have discussed in this course are skills and structures that need to be upheld when you are writing an article. They all have those patterns. So now when you go there, just drop this. This is the introduction. This is the research question. Every section is there. So when you get even to analysis, to methodology section, just name it. Just study them to see how these things are crafted. For example, we have limitations here. These limitations are different limitations type, methodological limitation, and all the rest of them. We have sample and generalizability limitation. So when you read, this is theoretical and conceptual limitation. So when you read, you will know how these are being crafted. This is practical and contextual limitation. So you will know that, okay, my study may not have all these limitations, but by the time you read through all this, you will see the one that resonates with your study. We made it so bogus that your study cannot escape any of these limitations. And the same thing goes for different parts of the article. So when you get there and you read this, the moment you want to start writing, let's say title, for example, you come to this point and click on title. This is the opportunity for you to start writing your title. You start writing, you start typing, and not only that, you see, this goes for everybody now. You see that there are tips that you can follow on what is expected in the article writing the title writing section. If you are done with your title, you go up again and click on abstracts. You come to this point. These tips are based on what it means to write abstracts in your field. Read it, go back to what you have up and see how it's structured in this place also. This is abstracts. Then come back and start writing your own. So it's like a template. Not even like a template. They are all templates for you. So you have a template to imbibe, and you also have expert tips that guide every session you are writing per time. I hope that is clear.
Yes, doctor.
All right, please, let's imbibe this while we are writing so that nobody will say, I'm lost, I don't know what to write.
Thank you very much, doctor.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We have Dr. Benjamin is not there. Dr. Nancy, we cannot hear her. So, hello? All right. So, in the absence of further question or any question, we would like to draw the curtain for this evening class, and we hope to meet on Saturday evening. And okay, Dr. Sunday Osagede. Thank you. You are not audible enough. Can you remove your earpiece, please?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Now, some people also said that when you write an article
Okay.
and you write recommendation session, there is no need for you to write conclusion again. I don't know what's your take on that.
There are two different things. Recommendation and conclusion are two different things. They serve different purposes. So, if you want to look at it from this point of conclusion, you are concluding, and in the conclusion, what you have is, even when you mention the implication as it affects practitioners, scholars, and policy makers, you have not distinctively come out to say that this is what you want them to do. Recommendation simply, you remember, if you read some articles, or if you read some thesis, you will see that recommendation, in some cases, there are more than 3. Can you see the articles that I just show you? I showed you an article the other time that specifically talk about different implications for different people. And if you are going to make recommendation based on that, in that place, you will find out that person, okay, practical management implication. Okay, now this individual now is just that we don't have much time. If we scrutinize, you will see that even after stating the implication, the person still goes ahead to say that, okay, this is what you are expected to do. So, all right, okay, I'm coming. Let me just share this. Let me share it. All right. This is practical implication, management implication. All right. Now, the implication I discussed here, that is, up to this point. Now, let's look at this place. This person says that when selecting principal, educational institution must consider whether candidate principals are emotionally intelligent. These are recommendations fused into implication. So, in other words, if you are able to merge the two together, fine. But there are two different things. Implication simply means that of what importance is the study? Of what, as in how does it affect these people? While the recommendation will not be a way of saying it expressly. As you can see here, let's look at this place. Look at it. It says the principal has a core influence on school performance and development. The Taiwan, whatever, I'm just trying to see if I can bring out something for you. All right, now it's saying both factors can be implemented in school through teachers and all that. Then it says strengthening the emotional and social competence of principal can effectively enhance teachers. Okay, you see now, this is an implication. That is, strengthening the emotional and social competence of principal can effectively enhance teachers' OT and OCB. But when you come to this point, you will see that the recommendation is expressly stating what should be done. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yes, it does.
Aha. So recommendation is different from implications. They are two different things. But you can, if these guys are very smart, that's why they are able to put the two together. Even though there was nothing like recommendation in that place, but they went further to state the recommendation, what should be done. So that is that about that area. Thank you so much. We want to say thank you to everyone and a very good night from our side. See you on Saturday.
Thank you, Doctor. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Good night.
Thank you,
Yes.